Today we're diving into a story that, honestly, it'll probably make you think twice about who you trust in your own family. We are unpacking a truly chilling piece of folklore that perfectly blends the psychological horrors of family resentment with the absolute terror of the occult. We're talking about Kala Tantra, black magic. And as you'll see, we're going to examine how a single tiny seed of jealousy can literally burn down an entire household.
To really get into this, I want to drop you right into the atmosphere where this whole thing begins. So picture this. You're far out on the edge of a village, way past the fields and the old peepal trees. It's the dead of night. There's this ruined temple. The air is thick. Heavy rain is just threatening to fall, and you can hear dogs howling in the distance. And right behind this temple, there's a woman sitting in front of a black cloth. On it, ash, a lemon, a red thread, and mustard oil. Her eyes are closed, she's murmuring a mantra, but her face is just completely twisted with hatred. As she takes a lock of hair and carefully binds it into that dark thread, she whispers something that really sets the terrifying foundation for everything we're about to explore. She says, "The happiness that burned me will now consume him." She drips black oil onto a photograph, and right at that moment inside the temple, a lamp violently flares up like a torch and then just snaps out completely on its own. Pretty fantastic, spooky, cold open, right? But the real horror is what happens next, when we get pulled right back into the bright, seemingly perfect daylight of normal life. It brings up a profound question that's going to anchor our entire journey today. What happens when the greatest threat to a perfect family isn't some outside force, but is actually festering right inside their own home?
Well, to understand this curse, we first have to look at the two brothers at the very center of this family, Ajay and Vijay. Now, what's really interesting here is the absolute duality of the situation. Look at Ajay. He's the perfect older son. Moved to the city, built a hugely successful business, but he never forgot his roots. He's paying for his parents' medical bills, the village house repairs, even his brother's kids' school fees. He and his wife Mira bring gifts every time they visit. But then, look at the other side. Vijay's wife, Kavita, is quietly rotting away inside. While the whole village is practically worshiping Ajay, she's standing there faking a smile. Deep down, she absolutely despises the charity. She feels totally ignored, totally convinced that her in-laws favor Ajay over her own husband.
You know how every pressure cooker eventually has a release valve or it just explodes? Well, Kavita's breaking point finally comes when Ajay buys a massive new house in the city and invites his parents to come live with him. Suddenly, the parents are calling the village every single day, bragging about air-conditioned rooms, eating at fancy hotels, taking these lavish trips to Mumbai. And for Kavita, that contrast between her quiet village life and Ajay's new luxury becomes completely, utterly unbearable.
So, consumed by this festering envy, Kavita takes a super dark turn. She actually seeks out an old village woman who's rumored to practice Kala Tantra. And listen, this isn't just simple superstition we're talking about. In this lore, it involves the darkest of arts, Vashkaran, which basically means mind control, along with cursed ash and binding spells using lemons, threads, and photographs. Jealousy really makes people do the unthinkable, right? Kavita ends up spending months secretly learning these horrifying rituals.
Let's actually break down the terrifying mechanics of how she executes this, because it's wild. When Ajay and his wife finally come back down to the village for a visit, Kavita plasters on that fake smile. But at night, she strikes. Step 1. She sneaks into Ajay's room and cuts a lock of his hair while he's fast asleep. Step 2. She manages to slip a small cursed piece of paper right into his wallet. And step 3, and this is by far the most intimate betrayal, she mixes enchanted ash directly into his food.
The dramatic irony here is absolutely bone-chilling. She literally serves him the food and says, "Bhaiya, I made this special kheer just for you." And Ajay? He eats it with a smile. He's completely unaware. Meanwhile, Kavita is just watching him silently, her eyes totally devoid of any humanity. The trap is officially sprung.
Okay, so what is the actual effect of Kala Tantra in a situation like this? Let's trace it out on this timeline. The escalation is systematic and it is brutal. Within the first few days of going back to the city, Ajay starts having these totally uncharacteristic fits of rage. He's starting huge arguments with his wife and his parents. Within weeks, his thriving, successful business just collapses. Loyal clients cancel their contracts, payments completely freeze up, partners lose trust. And within months, it hits his physical body. He suffers these severe illnesses no doctor can diagnose, and he starts having terrifying, dark hallucinations.
The sheer speed of his destruction is what makes this so incredibly horrifying. I mean, just comparing Ajay before and after the curse is heartbreaking. That calm, healthy, ultra-successful guy, he's entirely gone. He's nearly bankrupt, he's highly aggressive, and he's just sitting in the dark, feeling this chilling presence whispering in his ear and seeing dark shadows lingering near his wardrobe.
The psychological torment he's going through is severe. One night, his wife Mira actually hears him whispering desperately in his sleep. He's tossing and turning in sheer terror, saying, "Don't call me. What harm have I done to you?" The entity attached to him is quite literally draining his life force away.
But here's the thing. Ajay's mother, Saroj, is incredibly sharp. She starts connecting the dots. She realizes that Ajay's health and his business only ever seem to crash immediately after they visit the village. And then a really dark family secret pops back into her memory. Kavita's mother, Hansika, was actually notorious back in her youth. People heavily suspected Hansika of using black magic to slowly manipulate and steal her in-laws' property, all while playing the role of the perfectly sweet daughter-in-law. History, Saroj realizes with a shock, is repeating itself through the bloodline.
So, desperate for a solution, Saroj secretly takes Ajay back out to the countryside. They bypass their home entirely and go straight to an ancient jungle temple run by Swami Maharaj, who is an expert in exorcisms. This whole sequence is incredibly tense. Step 1. As they approach the temple stairs, Ajay, who is normally a deeply devout man, suddenly flat out refuses to enter. His face physically twists in revulsion. Step 2. The Swami instantly recognizes this dark attachment and smears holy ash on Ajay's forehead. Step 3. It's like Ajay is hit by a bolt of lightning. He violently convulses and just collapses right onto the floor.
What follows is a full-blown Havana, a holy fire ritual. Ajay is seated before the flames, but guys, it's clearly not him anymore. He's growling, his eyes are blood red, he's actively fighting off the men trying to restrain him, violently lunging toward the fire, desperately trying to throw the burning wood away to extinguish the flames. The Swami's chants are growing louder and heavier, building up until he throws a final powerful handful of ash directly onto Ajay's head. With a final agonizing scream, the entity is expelled. Ajay collapses, weeping, finally breathing normally again.
As they're preparing to leave, the Swami delivers this stark, totally ominous warning to Saroj. He says, "The binding is broken, but the one who did this will not have a good end." It's a chilling reminder that in these cultural narratives, dark magic doesn't just go away, it always demands a price.
Armed with the truth, and with a finally healed son,
the family marches right back to the village home. And honestly, it begs a huge question. How do you face the person who smiled at you, lived under your own roof, and quietly, methodically destroyed your life?
As you can imagine, the confrontation is explosive. At first, of course, Kavita denies the whole shebang. But her husband, Vijay, who's just furious and completely heartbroken, forces her to swear on their daughter's life. And that is what breaks her. Weeping, Kavita finally confesses. She admits she just couldn't stand the praise Ajay received, that she felt like she and Vijay were treated like nobodies. She details every bit of it, stealing the hair, the nightly rituals, watching Ajay suffer with sheer glee. In a complete fit of rage, Vijay actually grabs a knife, ready to kill her right then and there. But Ajay, showing the exact grace that made him so successful in the first place, steps in and stops his brother from committing murder.
So instead of violence, the family chooses absolute abandonment. Vijay takes their daughter and leaves with Ajay and his parents for the city. Kavita is left entirely alone in that old village house. And this is exactly where the Swami's warning comes to fruition. Those dark forces Kavita spent months inviting into her life, they no longer have a target, so they turn on her. She starts hearing heavy footsteps echoing in her empty courtyard. Dark, shifting shadows start manifesting right in the corners of her room. The very rituals she performed become her own personal haunting. In the dead of night, the absolute silence of the empty house is broken by a terrifying whisper right in her ear, echoing the very magic she cast. Now, it's your turn. And that brings us to a grim, deeply karmic finality. Just a few days later, villagers notice a foul smell coming from the locked house. When they break the door down, they find Kavita dead. And in this incredibly haunting full-circle moment, resting right in front of her lifeless body is a black cloth and a burnt lemon, the exact same tools she used to curse her family. So the story of Kala Tantra is obviously a supernatural thriller on the surface, but at its core, it's a profound cautionary tale about human nature. It leaves us asking this: when greed and dark magic invite destruction into a home, who truly pays the ultimate price? It's a stark, powerful reminder that the fire of jealousy you light to burn others will almost certainly end up consuming you instead.